playoff time. The postseason starts very, very soon. In fact, towards the end of this show, you'll probably be watching the first game and listening to us as we get to the end of our show. So are you ready for your postseason bracket reveal coming soon?
I am, and I feel bad about mine.
You feel bad about yours? Why?
I do, because I wanted to really stick with the people I picked at the beginning of the year, because both of my teams are alive, unlike some people's. And so I just wanted to stick with it, but there's been some changes. To say there's been a few changes.
That's allowed. I
know, but I feel like if both your teams are still alive, you have to
do this. Do this. Here, look.
Go with it. How's that?
Oh, that too.
My mic had fallen off. Excuse me. Sorry.
But I also hear you. Give me one of these guys. We'll volume down. AJ's a super fan, so he's watching FT while he's also doing FT. But I think it's okay. I mean, you don't know what to expect going into the season. And you now have new data, right? You're supposed to use that new data to make new decisions.
Yes, you are. But at the same time, I want to stick true to what I picked at the beginning of the year.
But what if there were no players left on that team that you picked?
Well, they pretty much are, but somehow they still made the playoffs. So that's the team, the Braves.
What are your thoughts on that, Kratz? Because I changed it up.
Of course you did, because your teams didn't make the postseason.
That's not true. I picked the Phillies to win the World Series, and I have them getting bounced early.
And the Rangers.
Yo, you're so stuck in 2023. That was so 2023.
You picked the Pirates and the Mariners.
No, I'm not picking which teams can out-cheap each other. Kratz, your thoughts on changing your tone for playoff predictions?
I mean, if you didn't change your playoff predictions, then, did you even watch the rest of the season? You have to see how teams are playing. It's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot because, everyone's going to say the Tigers are hot. The Dodgers had the best record. So what is more important? The Tigers, are they hot enough to beat the Astros? Can they beat oh no, the Yankees have a layoff. Oh no, the Phillies have a layoff. They've never done this before. You have to be able to change your tone and your decisions. Maybe you thought the Braves were going to win the division and the Phillies were going to be the wild card, so they'd be better because they're the wild card. You definitely have to change. I disagree with AJ, but I appreciate his loyalness to himself.
It's a great idea. I really need to change because I need to know which teams get the bye, and I have to pick against them. Yes, I have to use that information. So anyway, we'll give you our picks really soon. Let's start the top before we charge the mound, although he would like the name of the segment, by honoring Charlie Hustle. Pete Rose passed away at the age of 83. We did a mini show last night about it. Ken Rosenthal joined us. Ken knew Pete, worked with him over at Fox in the studio, and had some words on him. So if you want to check out that video later, you certainly can do so. It's on the FT YouTube channel. Go give that a subscribe. But here's a tweet from the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum, which, of course, got everyone all riled up. And I think Pete would want us to talk about this. So, of course, we're remembering a great career. He's the all-time hits king. But I think he'd also want us to be like, all right, lifetime ban, it passed. Should he be allowed to get a Hall of Fame induction at some point, even though he is not with us anymore?
I'm going to let Kratz go first on this one.
I went yesterday. I think he should have an opportunity. I think it is almost like, for the people who don't like it, the opportunity to get into the Hall of Fame after he's passed away is kind of like a told you so kind of thing. And it's the Hall of Fame. It's not like he's leading. He's not leading a country. He's not teaching our kids. It's the Hall of Fame. It's promoting and showing what he did in his career. I don't think any of his numbers as a player were the numbers as a player will get him into the Hall of Fame. Numbers as a player had nothing to do with gambling, in my opinion.
I know what he's saying. He's not a politician, which get held to the highest standards, of course.
Yeah. Do they though? We're not even going to touch on that.
I'm kidding.
That's ridiculous.
But
on every level.
But Ken said miscreants are in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I learned about that word.
No problem with that. Miscreants, whoever. Why aren't steroid guys in? And if we are not holding them to the highest standard,
they are in.
Who?
They're steroid guys in.
But guys, Barry Bonds, why isn't he in? He never tested positive.
I think he should be in.
Why is Roger Clemens not in?
I think he should be in.
You want to go down that route?
Well, I'm just asking. This is now. Here's the difference.
Yeah.
when you go to spring training, and listen, I bring it, chat. I don't really care what y'all do. You should not be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care. You sign Article 21 when you go into every spring training. There is Article 21 on every wall. You do not bet on baseball. You do not bet on baseball. It is a lifetime ban. If you bet on your team, it is a 1-year ban if you bet on the sport in general. Like, you have to sign it. They say it in English, Spanish. They'll get it in any language that you want to hear it. Okay? To me, he knew what he was doing. He just didn't think he'd get caught. He's like, I'm Pete Rose. I'll do whatever I want. Now, if we want to play this back, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Black Sox. His numbers say he should be in the Hall of Fame. Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? He got a lifetime ban. He died 100 years ago. Why don't we let him get in?
We should.
Oh, but we're not.
He's
so
got
what's
my vote.
different about Pete Rose? And Joe Jackson, there's less evidence on him than there is on Pete Rose. People say he didn't bet on him. He hit like 400 in that World Series. Played great. Right? Other guys admitted, yeah, we threw it. But he was like, I didn't have anything to do with it. But they still banned him for life. Why is he not in? Right? So to me, it sucks. It's one of those black marks on the game, but also Pete did it to himself. And, R.I.P. Pete, you're funny as hell. Everyone said you're a good guy. I met you, I think, once or twice maybe, but it was real quick. But to me, he doesn't deserve it because he knew what he was doing. And this is kind of where we're at. And, we're talking about politics, and we never want to get into politics on the show because it's a baseball show.
Yeah.
But, it's okay. You did that. It's okay. We'll make that go away. Well, you make decisions, and he made multiple decisions to make bets on a team he was managing. Now, he always bet to win, as far as we know. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Fine. That's the evidence we have, that he only bet on a team to win. Fine. But did he know more about what was going on than anybody off the street? Because he's in the dugout?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Did he bet on a game when he was playing in it? Did he strike out in that game with, guys on base?
But should he be banned from baseball or the Hall of Fame?
Well, they go hand in hand.
Why?
Why?
Because he's banned from everything Major League Baseball related. And the Hall of Fame is not going to get him in. He didn't get voted in. Right?
Yeah.
And so he's not going to get voted in now. I mean, unless some veterans committee, but they're never going to put him on the ballot.
That was my only question is, I feel like there's a lot of shadiness in the Hall of Fame.
Of course there is.
If you don't want a player involved, of course, in the sport, as a player, a manager, really anything, can't even step foot in a ballpark, the whole deal, cool, get it. That's violation of ethics of the sport. But there's a lot of players who did some really bad things. And I'm not talking about off the field. I'm talking about on the field, right? That were not allowed and still ended up in the Hall of Fame.
No, I'm not saying anything about the type of person Pete was or anything. But there is one rule that is sacred in baseball, and it's gambling on the game because it affects the integrity of the. We've seen NFL guys. We've seen guys in college now. Like, NFL guys are getting popped for gambling on NFL games. Like, they're losing a year. Calvin Ridley, remember? He just lost a year.
But if he was the best player ever, would he be banned from the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
I don't know what their rules are. I don't know what their rules are, but it says
Right.
banned from Major League Baseball for life.
Yeah.
And the Hall of Fame is going to follow Major League Baseball's lead. They're not going to say, "Oh, we're the Hall of Fame. You're MLB. You guys banned him, but we'll let him into the Hall of Fame over here."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And listen, I appreciate the people that say he should be in. I understand your argument. But coming from somebody that was in that clubhouse and had to sign Article 21 all the time, and listen, there's guys that, like gambling. It's cool. But I don't know. In my opinion, go ahead, roast me. It's fine. Bring it on. I don't really care.
That's fine. No, that's why you do the show.
But I don't really care. That's my opinion. And I just don't think, as a former player, listen, I played for John Coppolella. He got banned from baseball for life, but he got reinstated.
Yes.
Right? But his was completely different. He paid some kids. He did some.
Still, it sacrifices the integrity of the game that we create a system in place so that everyone has a fair shot at international prospects. Yeah. But I'm saying for Coppolella, like, you do this because you have a fair shot at international prospects. He was cheating the system so that they could get better prospects.
Yeah. And then they took all those prospects away and banned him for life. He got back in
once he got caught.
5 years.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think he'll ever get a job in baseball again. Because, I mean, maybe someday, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, he's not running a front office anytime soon. Yeah.
It would be like, I don't know. It's a touchy subject, and I understand it. And I appreciate the people that say he should be in, and I understand their reasons. But for me, just as somebody that played the game and I knew how serious I took every game, to know that there could be somebody possibly throwing that game, even the hint of it, disgusts me inside.
Yeah.
because like the steroid guys, like guys I know that did steroids, like to me they it hurts me because I was clean, and I know how hard I had to work to get to that point, and then the guys that did it, I don't know. It's kind of like, man, if there's a little bit inside of you that's like, maybe I should have done them. Kratz, like, man, I would have got paid way more money. I would have hit more home runs, maybe.
Yep.
But there's also a piece of me that I'm like, glad I didn't. Really glad I didn't, right? Because I can look at my family and say I didn't cheat at what I was doing. I busted my ass every day in the weight room, busted my ass to play every day, right? But to even think that there's one shred of a guy throwing a game on purpose, that there's 24, 25 other guys busting their ass to win, that like hurts my soul to even think about.
Yeah, I can feel it. That makes sense. That's why we do this show. It's good perspective there. All right, ready to talk playoff games? Let's charge the mound.
Charging the mound.
I actually just want to get right to the news. I mean, obviously you can comment on anything from the Braves and the Mets. We did a post-game show on that one too. So if you want to see anything from yesterday. No, hey, how do you know that you're going to end up with one of the better games we've seen in a minute?
People are talking about this game, best game of all time. The game one. Because of the way it ended. Now, I didn't see it. I was on a plane.
If I can put it, for Mets fans, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of slowness for a while. It's not like it was just action-packed craziness from the jump. So it was definitely up there. It was a great game, but I wouldn't put it as an all-timer. Maybe in the offseason we can reflect on
the Mets were down 3-0.
The drama was insane late.
In the 8th.
Yeah.
And then the Braves or the Mets bring in their closer. The Braves score 4 in the bottom of the 8th.
Right.
And you think, Braves got it. They're up 7-6. Iglesias been, they bring in Pierce Johnson, who's been pretty good. And he gives up a homer to Lindor, who hadn't played in forever because he's got a bad back.
Mm-hmm.
And he like Kirk Gibson's it around. He's like barely getting around the bases. And then Diaz says, "Screw you, Mendy. I'm going back out there for the ninth."
Yeah, it was cool.
And closes it out.
Lindor looked like he was as emotional as I've ever seen him because you can see him wincing at all times. I mean, he's constantly wincing. He is in pain. His back is bothering him. If this was midseason, he'd be on the IL.
100%.
And I think that's pretty clear.
Much
at this
respect,
point.
Frankie Francisco.
Playing through it. Yep. And Jose Iglesias, by the way, is just a runners in scoring position machine. I don't know.
A good year.
There was the only thing that when I was listening back to our show, Kratz, I was like, I should have shouted him out. He whiffs at 2 pitches outside the zone, and they're like, they said on the Mets broadcast, this is the first time we've seen him kind of get out of himself with runners in scoring position. He's been that good. And then, of course, he gets a 2-strike knock and keeps the hit streak going for the Mets in that inning. Ridiculous game. So let's spin it forward, though. Chris Sale's not pitching most likely in this series for the Braves. Do they have a chance against the Padres without Chris Sale and Schwellenbach's not going to give them significant innings?
Later what I pick, but they got no Sale. We don't think that Schwellenbach can't pitch. He pitched yesterday.
He can maybe on game 3 give him a couple innings or something. I don't know, an inning or two.
Fried pitching? Fried pitched Friday, right?
Fried's gonna. They want Fried to go 12.
Monday, Tuesday. He can't pitch till Wednesday. He can't pitch till game 2.
He's game 2. He is game 2.
But who's pitching tomorrow?
Today? I don't know. They don't know either. They're just gonna.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Throw darts at a board and say, Ian Anderson, relive the 2021 Magic. Is that who you think?
Yep. That's what I think they're going to throw out there. I think it's going to be Ian Anderson. And I think we should have given Jose Iglesias more love. And I also think the Braves and Mets cooked each other. And I just wait for my lock. I feel like they played fun games, but the travel and everything and the way they use their pitching staff, the way they use their bullpen, their lack of being able to score runs in certain situations, I think they cooked each other.
Well, we know where you're going later for locks, but let's take a break because Ken Rosenthal is in the green room. So we're going to break down the playoff preview that he wrote about in The Athletic that came out this morning. We'll get to Kenny Ballgame inside Scoop Time next. Go ahead, you can say it, and then we can start our
according
chat.
to the chat, Ian Anderson's not on the roster, so
Then he ain't pitching.
It's going to be Bryce Elder or Schmidt Schwarber, maybe?
No. Waldron. Possibly Waldron.
Well, Waldron's on the Padres.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Braves.
Waldrop.
Oh, Waldrop. Is he on the roster?
I don't know. I'm just
supposedly Ian Anderson was playing the best or was throwing the best recently. I know it was down in AAA, but they'd have to make a 40-man roster spot, and Anytime Fitness will be a great place for him to do his cuff work after he starts tonight.
Go on.
Because it's anywhere. I mean, they've been everywhere. The Braves were at home. He was in Gwinnett. Actually, I don't know if he was actually with the team or not, but I'm sure there's an Anytime Fitness in Gwinnett because we used to rip up some weights in Gwinnett when we played there in AAA, and now they're strolling out to San Diego. I'm sure there's one there that they can get that he can get all his work in, all his cuff work, all his empty cans, his touchdowns, everything.
5,000 plus well-equipped gyms, open 24/7. We'll drop that link for you to go check out the scene at anytimefitness.com. Inclusive community vibes, holistic fitness support, expert coaching support as well. You can get yourself a personalized plan, and you can bring that wherever you want to go because, of course, there's the app as well. So be sure to check out Anytime Fitness via the link in today's episode description for more information and to claim your free trial pass. Be right back with Ken Rosenthal. Inside Scoop time with Ken Rosenthal, our FT Senior Insider, who put out 10 major questions for the postseason this morning in The Athletic. Ken, great to see you and happy postseason. So let's focus on some of the teams that are playing tonight. I know obviously there's Ohtani and Judge and some others in there that get a nice little cozy bye week, and we'll see what happens. But I'd like to start with the San Diego Padres. They haven't won a World Series. I don't think many people peg them to be a World Series champ this year. So can you give us a little bit on what you wrote about with San Diego?
Basically, Scott, they look like perhaps the most complete team in the tournament right now. And when I say that, I mean their lineup is deep. Their starting rotation, they're going to go King, Musgrove, and Cease is very good. And their bullpen, which they fortified at the deadline, is, again, one of the best in the game. You never know what's going to happen in the postseason. Of course, we all know that. But they look very well positioned here. And remember, 2 years ago, they were in the NLCS with a much different group, admittedly. But I could see them going on a run here. If you look at their starting pitching, just that alone, who besides the Phillies is even in their league in the National League? I don't know that you can mention any other team along those lines.
All right, then let me flip it over.
Did we just get a little playoff winner prediction in the National League from Junior there? I mean, no one's in Phillies league, so we know who
he doesn't make predictions.
You just did.
He likes the Padres and the Phillies. That's who he likes.
Just said no one else is in their league except for in the Phillies league. So
I said their starting rotation, no one else is in their league. You need to listen, sir.
What do you think about the Milwaukee Brewers? So they get to chill, hang out, and enjoy winning all season long. As you always say, if you don't like it, win more. And that's what they did. So they watched the chaos. They welcome in a Mets team that they just faced, and they've run all over them this year. So what do you think about this series coming up?
I love Milwaukee. I love the way they play. I love their whole ethic, the undaunted motto, the whole thing. It's really cool. And to see how far they've come after losing Counsell and Burns and Woodruff and Devin Williams at the start of the season and Yelich later in the season. It's rather amazing. They play the game correctly. They are the best base running team in the majors, according to Fangraphs. They're one of the top defensive teams, according to all the advanced metrics. Offensively, they can be a little bit challenged at times, but they run all over the place. 17 for 17 in 6 games against the Mets in stolen base attempts this season. So they're an interesting group. Now, we talk about starting pitching. It's not a killer rotation. There's no doubt about that. They're going to go Freddie Peralta. In game 1, I would assume Montas or some type of glorified bullpen game in game 2, and who knows in game 3. But their bullpen is the best in the National League statistically. I know I mentioned the Padres, but when you look at the numbers, the Brewers are up there at the top, right behind the Guardians in the majors. So I like the Brewers. I also like the Mets right now. And after they kind of got the monkey off their back, if you want to call it that, yesterday, it's a surge of momentum that they're riding, a euphoric surge here. So I can see this going either way. Sorry, AJ, no prediction.
Yes, AJ loves your predictions, so he's changing his locks based on who you're picking. So changing my locks, do you have any update on rosters? Obviously, the early game rosters are out. Those teams are set, but we don't know even who's starting for the Braves in game 1, and it may be, from what I thought you wrote, or maybe someone else wrote, it may be possibly that there's 2 guys that aren't even on the 40-man roster right now that could start for the Braves in game 1.
Well, a couple things here, Eric. And Smith-Shawver and Elder are on the roster, and it appears that one of them will start today. I don't know how they're going to get through today, honestly. They've got that problem at the front of the game, and they've got another problem at the back of the game because Jimenez and Iglesias both pitched in both games of the doubleheader yesterday. As far as rosters are concerned, the one thing that I thought was really cool this morning in seeing the rosters come out was so many of the players who are questionable are on rosters. Vinny Pasquantino for the Royals. He's back about 2 weeks sooner than expected from his broken thumb. Sal Frelick from the Brewers. When he crashed into that wall Saturday, I thought he was down for at least the wild card series. He is on the Brewers roster. And the biggest one, Yordan Alvarez with the Astros, he's on their roster. He's been dealing with a knee issue. So we're going to get the best of these guys, and I know they might be physically compromised, some of them, but we're going to see them at least on the field, and that's really cool. As I wrote in that story today, what's really interesting about this postseason and intriguing about it is we're seeing really almost all of the game's biggest stars on this stage. Doesn't happen that often. Of course, it hasn't happened with Ohtani and Trout for a long time, so that aspect of it makes it really interesting to me, and it should be a lot of fun.
All right, Ken, I got to ask you this. How do the Braves win this series? I mean, no Sale on the roster. You just mentioned all their problems in the back end of the bullpen. They haven't really hit all year. You know, they don't know who's starting game 1. Obviously, Fried game 2 is a good one for them. But is there a way the Braves can win this? Because you mentioned the Padres. They're sitting back. They're lined up. They've got their pitching set. Their lineup's been swinging it great. This seems like, man, the Padres 2 and done. Braves are going to go home. Oh, we had a nice year. We'll try again next year.
I'm having a really hard time seeing how they are going to win this series. And the only chance I would give them is that they're the Atlanta Braves, and they found ways to get here despite all of the obstacles that were in their way. And we can recount them. It's been an incredible run of injuries. Strider and Acuna and Riley being the biggest of them. Albies for a while. We can go on and on. Playing 3 release players in their lineup. It's incredible that they're here. Now, the way they win is probably, maybe today, I wouldn't say punt the game. You don't punt a playoff game, but you're obviously going to have to hold back Iglesias and Jimenez. I don't see how they can pitch today. Unless you have a lead, maybe then you take your shot. But you play for games 2 and 3, for Fried and Ronaldo Lopez, and you hope that maybe you can pull it out that way. But it's going to be really difficult. They're not going to concede, obviously. They're the Atlanta Braves. No team concedes. But at the same time, they're in really tough here. And hats off to them, though. Just to get to this point and be in the playoffs, considering all that they've faced this year, is kind of amazing.
Ken, I wanted to go to the Baltimore Orioles for a moment. I think that series is fascinating. I mean, especially with game 1. Cole Reagans is really good. I mean, that is really why you sign one-year players last year, for example, with the Royals on a Chapman deal and get yourself a Cole Reagans to start game one of a playoff series a year later. And then meanwhile, it's Corbin Burnes, who looks like he fixed whatever the problem was with the cutter back in August. But the Orioles have been very 500-ish for a while. So what do you think this series looks like heading into it? Can the Orioles, as you put it, I think, snap out of this funk?
So far, so good. And when I say that, in the last week and a half of the season, they showed signs of snapping out of that funk. And Westberg is back now. He hasn't hit yet, but he is back. And they've got Urias back as well. He is a player who's kind of valuable for them. And as you said, they've got Burnes and Eflin and then Dean Kramer in game 3 if necessary. 7-3 in their last 10 games. They've hit better. They've looked more like the team that they were in the first half of the season. Now, this series, to me, might be the most closely contested of the 4, just for the reasons you mentioned. The Royals are a team that struggles offensively and has down the stretch, but here comes Pasquantino back. We'll see how he is. They have the best player on the field, Bobby Witt Jr. The Orioles have the second best player, Gunnar Henderson, or maybe it's 1 and 1A. It's going to be a fascinating matchup. Now, I like the Orioles because they're at home, and I like them because they have Burnes and Eflin here, but at the same time, nothing would surprise me in this series. It would not surprise me if the Royals did really well. It just seems to me that the Orioles might be regaining their mojo. Maybe I'm putting too much on that 7-3 stretch, but it was against teams that were not bad. The Detroit Tigers, the New York Yankees. We'll see how this goes, but it looks again like they are kind of getting back in the flow a little bit, and they'll obviously have a very enthusiastic home crowd at Camden Yards.
You've mentioned it a little bit here. You mentioned it to a longer extent in your article about how the best players in the game right now are in the playoffs. And that's what we want. First time since, I forget what year you said, 80-something, where the National League MVP, Cy Young, all that stuff was in these games. Is this saying something about our game in the sense that, well, if you don't have one of these good players, you're not going to make the playoffs? Or is it just the expanded playoffs is because the last time was in the 81 season when it was a shortened season and more teams made the playoffs.
Right, Eric, I'll explain what I wrote, and it's a little bit complicated, but basically 81 was the last time, the only time we've ever seen in one postseason the eventual MVPs, eventual Cy Youngs, and eventual Rookies of the Year in, again, one postseason. Now, it might not happen this season either if Paul Skeens wins National League Rookie of the Year, but everyone else is here. Everyone else is involved. To me, it's more a reflection of the expanded playoffs than anything else. But at the same time, you look at Milwaukee and what they have done without a star. Okay, that's one way to do it. But then you look at Cleveland. They've got a superstar, Jose Ramirez. And it always helps to have a superstar. And actually, Milwaukee has one too. He just happens to be hurt in Christian Yelich. You do need those players to win. And there's no question about that. But this is only possible because the expanded playoffs have consisted of 12 teams for the third straight year now, and you creating more opportunity for the stars to get there. And also it helped to get Ohtani out of the Angels situation. That is the key thing here.
Ken, let's get to some non-playoff stuff, just a couple topics here. Looks like Buster Posey's getting 3 years on the president of baseball operations deal, and Pete Putila was let go. So they're going to let him kind of make some changes there. After 24 hours here, anything else that we should digest with San Francisco that we're learning about? I know we covered it a little bit yesterday too.
Well, the Putila move is interesting, and I'll tell you why. I thought initially maybe he would stay because Buster Posey is going to need some people who are administrators, guys who know the rules, who can do things, who just are people who serve a valuable function in the front office, keeping things going. The fact that he doesn't want him, Putila is a guy who came from the Astros and wants to start anew, just shows the extent of the change that they're going to make. It's going to be a sweeping change. Buster Posey clearly wants his own people in there, and that's understandable. This is very common. It's going to be really interesting to see who he hires as general manager. He has a network, of course. He has numerous connections in baseball, but will he hire someone, I don't know, who was a former player like himself? I kind of doubt it. Or an established executive, someone who may be out of work now or working for another team. That to me is what he needs. He's going to need that know-how. He has the vision, I am sure. He is really smart. We all know that. And I would imagine Buster Posey, among all people, knows how to put together a winning franchise in his mind. That said, the mechanics of doing that, making the trades, leading an organization, all of the things that go into being a president of baseball operations, he doesn't have the expertise in many of those areas, and that's where he's going to need the help.
Is this a change, though, Ken? That's what I want to know. Is this the beginning of it turning from guys that never played from Harvard and Ivy League schools to now teams are starting to look at more at former players? And listen, I hope Buster Posey does great, but he has no experience at this. He has absolutely he's done nothing. Excuse me. At least I'll give Chris Getz credit. He worked in the minor leagues for a bunch of years, so he kind of had an idea how some things work. But Buster Posey's been a special assistant to the owner, basically, right? And he would come in. But to take him and say, you're president of baseball ops, you can hire the front office. Like, are they going to give him carte blanche on the credit card to go out and get free agents? Are they going to give him carte blanche to go get the GM, the manager, whoever he wants? Because, listen, hire me. I'd love to have an open credit card and be able to go out and say, oh, Buster, you want me to go get who's a free agent? Oh, Juan Soto? Oh, give me the credit card. We'll do it.
AJ, these are all great questions. And they're questions that fans have, media has right now about the way the Giants are going to operate. I don't know the answers to a lot of that, but from the way you described it, that's the way I feel about it. There's some risk here. You have a franchise legend, admittedly, a great model for the organization and for baseball. He's someone that we all kind of look up to, right? But that doesn't mean he can be a president of baseball operations. And it doesn't mean he's going to succeed in a role in which he has zero experience. I kind of equate it to some of the managers who have come in without experience either. Now, some of them have done quite well. And maybe that will be the case for Buster Posey, but I would suggest that running a franchise as a president of baseball operations is a heck of a lot more complex than managing a team. I'm not trying to discredit managers, but running a team with hundreds of employees and keeping the farm system going and international scouting and all of the different things that are entailed beyond the major league roster. Wow, it's a lot, and he's going to need help, but I assume they have a plan. Javier Lopez, his former teammate, the Giants reliever, was quoted in Andrew Baggerly's story as saying today, he's not doing this unless he has a vision of how he wants to go about it. And we know that from Buster Posey. So I am fascinated to see how this is going to turn out. And will it start a trend, to answer your question? I don't know. Perhaps it depends on how he fares to see whether other teams will follow suit. But keep in mind, AJ, too, how many teams have a guy like Buster Posey? Someone who was in their organization his entire career, someone who is that model type player, and someone who wants to do this. It doesn't seem like there are many guys who would qualify by that description.
No, but one thing I do enjoy about this is the Giants keep their guys around. There's certain organizations, I ain't mentioned them, they don't keep their guys around. Guys that won for them, guys that did a lot of things for them, they don't keep them around and they don't value their insight, whereas the Giants do. The Giants trust their guys, they find their guys, and they usually keep their guys, especially after they won those World Series. I mean, they kept guys that probably shouldn't have signed. They signed them because they helped them, right? There are certain other organizations, and you can name them, Ken, if you go through it, that don't value that. And the Giants value their guys.
There's no question. And AJ, along these same lines, one of the things that has been lost in the game over the past, 10, 15 years with the rise of the analytical movement is the trust in the expertise of experience in players like Buster Posey, even in executives who are maybe older. That has to end. That has to be something that gets addressed where there's more balance. I've talked about this before. No one is saying that analytics should go away. No one in their right minds would say that. Analytics are extremely valuable in the game. They've helped players. They've helped teams. They inform us in ways that we never imagined. But there is a human element. There is a balance that must be struck. Guys like Posey can help strike that balance. He had all the numbers when he was playing. He was not that far removed from that kind of era. He played under the Farhan Zaidi, Gabe Kapler regime. So he knows where that value lies and where it may not. And you know what? At times, if the value from the analytics is not as valuable as the scouting perspective, that's okay. Smart teams are using both and incorporating both. And I said this yesterday. Teams give a lot of lip service to how they're a combination and how we value all the information. It's not true. And we can see that by the way they conduct themselves, by the scouts that they fire, and just by the way they operate. So that is my hope for the game, that the old school expertise becomes again more in fashion along with the analytics, and that teams kind of look at both in a balanced way and then make their decisions.
Yeah, we see Posey, he's speaking today or now recently here. I value scouts very much, trying to get the balance back a little bit. Obviously, this is like, you break up with someone and you try and date someone who's very different.
The really good teams, though, use both.
Yes, of course.
The Astros kind of went away from it, but they even brought back scouts, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's no team out there that is good that just is like, we're just going to use, whatever system it is analytically. And analytics are great.
That's true, but there are some teams, AJ, that have the percentage of influence much higher toward the analytical side. Not so many now that have the percentage toward the scouting side, no. But some are maybe 80-20, however you want to break it down.
But they still balance
those teams are missing. Those teams are at a competitive disadvantage because there is things that happen on the field, things that scouts see, things that players, managers, coaches see, farm directors see that aren't necessarily measurable. And that's what drives analytical people crazy. Oh, you can't measure it. No, sometimes you can't measure it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, this topic drives fans crazy too. That's why it's important to talk about. Ken, last thing, and if you haven't seen it yet, we can save it for next time or for Fair Territory on Thursday. Did you see Ken Kendricks' comments about Jordan Montgomery? Okay.
I did.
Do you want to let us know your thoughts? Because he slammed Monty and said it's all my fault and essentially said it was an awful investment and he was terrible.
I don't necessarily agree with an owner coming out and just ripping a player like that, but he's also ripping himself. And he's saying that the mistake was his. And I remember I wrote a pretty long story about him early in the season after they signed Montgomery, in which I asked him about raising payroll after the World Series and the move to get Montgomery and the thinking behind it. And obviously he was all for it. He had to approve that deal. Now, when it doesn't work out, to me, the classy thing to do is simply say nothing and move on. That's what, 95% of the teams do. This was a case where he kind of went too far, in my opinion. Actually, not kind of. He went too far, in my opinion. He just should have left well enough alone and taken responsibility himself. That would have been the more dignified way to go about it. And Jordan Montgomery, I'm sure, would agree. He didn't have a great year. He knows he didn't have a great year. And we'll see what happens with him next year.
Yeah, and right now he's still on the team. So
he also has an opt-in. He can opt in.
Yeah, he can opt in. So he continued. Yeah.
And listen, maybe that's the motivation here, right? Maybe Kendricks trying to tell him don't opt in. I believe Jordan Montgomery can probably do better than the $25 million on the open market anyway on a multi-year deal, so he should opt out. But maybe this is what sealed it. I don't agree with that kind of tactic. I don't think, again, it's the classic way to go, but that might be the game that Kendrick is playing here.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of his colleagues have certainly set the bar low recently, so I feel like he's like,
very true.
Player. We've got a guy just rapping on a city right now. So, Ken, thank you, and most importantly, happy postseason. Great to start the playoffs here. I'm excited about it.
Ken, do you know where you're going yet?
AJ, you tell me. You always seem to have more information about where we're going.
Do you know where you're going?
I have a hunch, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Can't disclose.
We don't know
yet.
I've heard rumors.
And what we're talking about, for people who are watching who have no idea what we're talking about, AJ works on one Fox crew in the division series. I work on another, and we have not gotten our assignments yet. It seems to me it depends on if the Mets advance, how this all plays out, and whatever decisions our bosses make.
Ken will pick whatever.
No, but that makes sense. It's New York.
Ken will not pick what. No. We're not doing that at this time of year. He knows that. He's trolling me.
Yes, it's not Ken's decision, but the Mets are in New York. It's the number one market that plays a factor into.
Yeah, but Philly is also a big market.
That's true.
The key.
But the Mets.
So is LA.
Come on up.
So is LA, and
you can go golfing with me. You can go golfing.
Here's the good news. Here's the good news.
Be happy to.
By Fair Territory on Thursday, we might know. So stay tuned there. You'll see Ken on that. Ken, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, might. Friday at the latest. So thank you, Ken. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Fair Territory popping up again on Thursday, 12:30 Eastern. So if you have more questions, whether it's about playoff teams or non-playoff teams, thought there was a lot of news here flying around right now. You can save some of that and dish it out to Ken and Alana on Thursday on the FT YouTube channel. For those of you watching on Valley Sports TV right now, we will swing right back. We'll get to those Ken Kendrick comments. We'll get to our postseason predictions as well.
Is Shohei Ohtani's year better than any year Barry Bonds ever had?
The stolen bases are a factor that didn't happen, I guess, with Barry. I'd be interested in protection that Barry Bonds had. I'd want to go back and look at that because
I protected him in 2004, and he had a 1,400 OPS. So protection don't matter. Clearly, clearly protection is for sailors.
So 04 Bonds doesn't count. He had too much protection. Because going to the Dodgers sure has helped him out a ton, being with Freddie and Mookie and in that lineup.
He had a higher OPS last year on the Angels, just saying.
We're in the best spot baseball's been in a while. So if you go back to 2016, nothing existed outside of linear TV or MLB's social accounts. Nothing. If you tweeted out a GIF, they would delete your account. Pitching Ninja, that happened to him in 2016. And he was like, I'm just promoting the game. Like, what are we doing? And that was when they changed and they said, okay, we won't be the Gestapo anymore. We're not going to shut everyone down that tries to spread our own game. But they didn't announce it publicly that you could do it. So my timing just happened to be perfect because I was like, well, if they shut me down, whatever, I got nothing to lose. I started in 2017. But I just kept doing more and more and more, and it turned out they weren't really coming after people. And now we have so many baseball creators that are covering the game, doing, essay style videos like Jolly Olive, Foolish Baseball. You got fan accounts, you have highlight accounts, you guys, us, Hosmer and Moylan. There's just a ton of baseball coverage out there now that's not traditional, not sanctioned by the league. And that's a good thing because you get different voices then and different styles and you let creatives be creative. So I think we're in the best spot we've been. It's just a tough sport for like the youth or casual fans. It's not one game a week. It's hard to be a casual baseball fan when if you miss a week, you could miss all of a sudden this guy's not hot anymore and this guy's the hero and you're lost. It's like there's 6 games. If you go on vacation, a lot can change. So it's still just the nature of the sport. 162 games, 185 days or whatever, or 180 days, whatever it is. It's still tough to follow.
Hey, here we go. We're back on FT, and Charlie Culberson is joining us right now, former big leaguer. Charlie, great to have you on, man. How you doing?
I'm good. No, it's nice to be officially retired now, so I kind of got that past me, and it's kind of fun to be a fan of the game, just to be able to watch baseball now.
Well, congratulations, dude. So can you walk me through that process for you when you decided, hey, this is good for me now, and how you wanted to announce it?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I tried the pitching thing this offseason. I went back to the Braves. I think I was on a pretty short leash with them, and they released me at the end of spring training. And I knew that at that time, after making a position switch, and it didn't work out, that I was done. I wasn't going to come back home and continue to throw and hit. I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I felt like I had a pretty good run at it, and it was time for me to just be done, enjoy my family this summer. But at some point, I needed to put something out there saying that I was done. But I definitely wasn't practicing and staying ready once I got home in March.
Charlie, I was there when you threw a bullpen one time. I don't know if you remember that, but I was watching you, and I was like, you could actually do this as a pitcher. And you tried it, and I give you all the credit in the world for trying it. But after that, like you said, you tried it. The Braves, said, hey, we're sorry, but it's not going to work out. How hard was that? Because I know what I went through, and mine was I was older, obviously, and played longer. But, like, how hard is it? Explain to people how hard is it? You do this your whole life, and you get to the end, and you're like, I don't have spring training. I don't have a game today. I don't have to go work out today. I can do whatever I want. Now, there's good parts to it because of the family stuff. There's bad parts to it because you're on this routine for your whole life. Now it's gone. So explain to people out there just how hard and how difficult of a decision is to just walk away.
Yeah. I guess to your point, like everyone has different careers. Correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, but you probably were able to somewhat end on your terms. For me, going through the last, I guess, 2 seasons, being designated, back on the roster, up with the Braves twice last year, getting one at bat, I kind of saw the writing to see that teams were kind of past me as a player, which is okay. That was a little hard to deal with. But then making the transition to pitching the last 2 months of the season in Gwinnett was actually a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I didn't really miss hitting that much, but I almost had the retirement in the back of my mind from an earlier time than just abruptly ending. And so going to spring training, I had expectations for myself, but I knew that it was going to be tough. But again, it was me trying something different. A few guys have done that, went down that path. It was tough leaving the last day. I got a call from Alex on an off day, said that we're going to release you, and that was kind of it. He's been great to me and my family. But walking out of the park the next morning after getting all my things, I knew in my heart that was the last time that I was going to suit up as a player. So it definitely hit me. But I was at peace. I was able to be at home with my family. I was able to go on trips, coach my son's team. I'm caddying for him in golf now. Just things that I'm able to do now as a dad and as a husband that I missed out on so much from when I was a player.
All right. So what's next? You kind of dipped into a little bit there. Caddy, like, are you a good caddy? Are you patient? Do you take the blame when he misses a putt?
I feel like I have to. I feel like less is more. I kind of let him do his thing. And if he asks me for help, I'll give it. But if not, I just wait back. He picks his clubs. He knows what he can do. But no, I mean, being a utility player for so long, and I'm 35 years old, Dad's going to have to go out and do something different here pretty soon. And I'm okay with that. I'm honestly just open to whatever. I got 6 months at home with my family. But bills don't stop. Activities don't stop. Schooling now for the kids, as you know, as they get older, things get a little bit more expensive. So I love the radio stuff, the TV stuff, the podcast. I got a buddy of mine down in Sea Island, Georgia, that we're going to start doing a podcast together. So just trying to have fun with it and just being as open as I can to whatever comes my way.
All right. So if you want to get into the radio and by the way, you have a face for TV. I have a face for radio. So just so you know your lane, you stay in your lane. What do you think? Your Braves? I'm assuming I'm going to call them your Braves. I know you played for 4 other teams, but your Braves made it in. What do you think their chances are if they can figure out a Game 1 starter here?
Yeah, I'm excited for them. Honestly, it was tough for me to want to go to a game this year. And then this past weekend, we had a chance to go to Saturday's game, and my son had 2 baseball games Sunday morning, and we had a chance to go back Sunday afternoon. So my first 2 games back from being done were Saturday and Sunday, and it was actually really enjoyable to be able to watch a game from the stands, to cheer on my buddies, and against the Mets of all teams too. Pretty cool. I guess that was the Royals. I'm sorry, the Royals, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it with my family, and I'm excited for them. And as you guys know, like going into the postseason, there's all this talk of, clinching a division early and then having time off. The guys with the Braves, they had to fight literally until the last inning of game 162. They're excited. If you played in the postseason before, you know that you can flip a switch and you do get a second win. So I think these guys are excited. The whole travel after the doubleheader yesterday, yeah, they're going to be tired, but these guys know what they got to do. Guys are stepping up. It takes a whole team plus more to be able to win. And I'm actually really looking forward to this Padres series and hopefully get a chance to go back to a game at Truist Park when they come back.
Okay, Charlie, here's your shot right now. I just asked Ken Rosenthal how in the world the Braves could beat the Padres. They got no pitching, they got no hitting, they're beat up. The bullpen threw 42 pitches, every one of them yesterday. How the heck do they fly to San Diego and win 2 out of these 3 games? Because if you want to be in TV, you want to be a podcaster, you're going to need to convince me because I can't figure it out. And listen, I grew up a Braves fan. I ended my career as a Braves player. I love that organization. Convince me, please, because I just don't know how it can happen.
I mean, anybody can be beat on any given
Yes,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the White Sox couldn't beat
games.
anybody this year.
Yeah, they did beat a few teams, but it's a 3-game series, right? Literally anything can happen, and it's a lot about luck and timing right now. The mindset in postseason baseball, it doesn't matter if you're 0 for 4 or 4 for 4. Obviously, you just want to win a ball game and win a series, and I think those guys got the team to do it. And correct me if I'm wrong again, but is Ian Anderson pitching the first game?
No,
Not sure.
he's not on the roster.
He's not on the roster.
They're thinking Schwarber,
Smith
or Elder, or
Smith-Schwarber.
Yes.
But a lot of these guys,
you know who could pitch? Charlie Culberson.
Bring me in.
You're fresh.
I'm ready. I am fresh. I'm not feeling anything in my elbow or my shoulder anymore. I feel like I felt more of that stuff through an off season than I ever did being a position player. But I think, if they do bring up AJ or Bryce to pitch, obviously those guys have experience. Bryce was an all-star last year. It's a guy and an arm that these teams haven't seen a lot this year. You have video on all these guys. You have the analytics, spin rates, this and that. But when you don't see a guy that often, sometimes that throws the other team off. So I think these guys will come out ready to play. Again, 2 games, that's all they got to do to win. Easier said than done, but it can happen. It's not like they're facing the Dodgers, who can throw whoever. It doesn't matter. Like, anything can happen. Just like the Braves had the best offensive season last year, and then they go in and play a Philadelphia team and get beat. It's getting hot at the right time. These guys played meaningful games up until game 162. They're on a high right now. They're ready to win. They're ready to prove people wrong because they didn't win the division this year, but they're in the postseason. And so all it is momentum, be hungry, and that's basically it. There's no other thing for them to do except to try to find a way to win a ball game.
All right, Charlie, I'm going to try and challenge you on some things here. So you're going to enter the media and the podcast world. We need the most authentic takes. And also the best thing that we get often from the guys is going back in time, and it can be the recent past, to get the opinion of a player who isn't a team employee anymore. So, for example, let's start with Atlanta. So 2 things. 1, how big a factor in your mind really was the bye week, I call it, for teams that win the division? For Atlanta over the past couple of years. I mean, your former manager, Brian Snitker, definitely called it out a little bit and didn't like the process. That's number 1. And number 2, what did you think about all the attaboy Harper stuff from last year and how the team didn't like the way that, it was heard and all of that? Now you're on the media side, so you want to hear that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's pretty evident, again, like I said earlier, when you clinch a division or you have a postseason berth earlier before the last few games or the last week of the season, guys can relax a little bit more. Then you have a bye week because you played so well. You get a chance to skip that wild card series and have the bye week. Then you're having to face your pitchers in practice, doing inter squads. It's like you don't have the fans in the stands for a week up to 10 days potentially. There's a big factor that plays into that. But that's what happens when you have a really good team that plays so well and wins the division early. And so if you don't want to go down that path, what do? Do you lose a few games or try not to win a division or try not to have the best record? I think guys and teams, their focus is to win the division first, but the big picture is to obviously go as far as you can and win a World Series. And that's just how it's set up. That's how the playoffs are set up. They obviously added a couple more teams and to make it a little bit more interesting. So again, that's just part of having a good team and having a chance to be in the postseason. And then the whole attaboy stuff with Harper, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to any of that stuff. You might have to fill me back in on that, but.
Well, okay, so give a quick recap, right?
Well, no, last year Harper got picked off, remember, on that crazy play, like doubled up, and RC after the game was like, attaboy Harper, and then Harper hit a home run and stared at him, and the Phillies said it fired him up, even though I don't know why you're in the playoffs. You need someone else to fire you up.
But also it was said during media availability.
And
they were like, that wasn't.
Listen, I liked it because
it was awesome.
We need some feistiness in these series. Like, like the Mets and Braves both made the playoffs this year, and they were like hugging on the
Hugging.
field. Like, man, listen, they both got in. I get it, but we need some rivalries.
Yeah.
That's what makes sports great is rivalries, right?
Yeah, that seemed a little odd to me. I'm back on social media now, so I see some posts, I see some videos, and when guys are taking pictures with the other team, I mean, yeah, they're friends. I'm sure they've played together before. They're happy for one another. But at the end of the day, like, when you're playing against the other team, they're not your friend. Like, you're wanting to beat them. Maybe you want them to do well, but when they're playing against you, you don't want them to. You want to beat them. You want to beat them. Bottom line.
My friends did good when I was playing against them.
Well, they're taking money out of your pocket. That's a ring that you're fighting for. Like, this stuff, yeah, this is just, I don't know. I mean, Francisco Lindor came back and had a great year. I know he had a slow start. I don't like it. I mean, yeah, they're having fun, but this is the Braves and the Mets. Like, these are two huge organizations that have a big rivalry, and now they're just laughing and cutting up on the field. Obviously, a lot of good guys, but it doesn't look good. If I were a Braves fan, I wouldn't be happy, and if I were a Mets fan, I wouldn't be happy about that. So I don't like it. It's not good.
Listen, I mean, chuck it up in the tunnel where nobody can see you, right? I mean, you played for the Braves, I played for the Braves, and we weren't very good, but we still didn't mean the fans like the Mets very much. And you were in the heat of it when they were really good. Both teams were good, so you know how much those fan bases don't like each other. So listen, I get it, you're friends and all that, but let's try and do it where no one's watching. But it's cool. I get it. I understand. Times have changed. Now, let me ask you this. Did you see Kenley Jansen? What happened with Kenley Jansen where he left the last weekend? And apparently Alex Cora said it was okay once they were eliminated. Did you ever see anybody do this? Because I never saw a guy leave early in the middle of the season. I had a manager quit early once, but I never had the rest of the team member say, I know he had some personal stuff. But
I was going to say, he mentioned there's something going on,
Yeah.
So that's the caveat there.
True, but your thoughts on that, Charlie? Because it's just a...
That's the thing. If there's a personal matter at home, like, I feel like his teammates need to know to some extent that he's not just leaving because he's on the injured list and wants to get home and rest. I got a chance to play with Kenley. Kenley's a competitor. He's arguably one of the best closers in the game for a long time, on his way to being a Hall of Famer, looking at his numbers. But if there was no personal matter involved and it was just because he wanted to go home and get rest, from what I've been able to read, and a lot of people have been able to read, that would piss me off as a teammate. A lot of these guys are fighting for their job for next year. That was me. Basically my whole career, like, every at-bat mattered, every game mattered that I had a chance to play. I was trying to find a job for next year. Granted, Kenley's been in his own situation. He's been really good. He's made tons of money. He's played for over 14 seasons in the major leagues. Coming off of a 2-year, $32 million contract with the Red Sox. I'm sure he's frustrated. But for me, I hope it wasn't off the field matter that he needed to get home to. And if that was the case, hopefully he's a good enough teammate in person to be able to address his teammates and say, listen, guys, I need to get home. I can't really go into detail with it, but it's because of a family matter. Then that makes it a lot easier for him to go home early. But outside of that, if it's just because he wanted to get rest, that's a terrible look. I'd be really mad.
Charlie, don't you think that the Red Sox should have come out and said, like, on Friday when he left, because his own teammates came out and said, anonymously, which I also hate, by the way. I hate when you people like say it, like, be a man, say it, take your heat. But why? They all came out and said, oh, he left, and nobody knew why. And then the Red Sox and Alex Cora were like, Alex was like, oh no, I said he could go, and then the Red Sox like, oh, he had a personal matter. But why didn't his teammates know about it? Like Charlie just said. Stand up and say, guys, I'm sorry. I know we have 3 games left. I have to go home. I have something. We'll talk about it later.
Skip Schumacher did that with the Marlins with 2 games left. He's like, I think he just said personal matter to attend to, and he had to miss the last couple of games. You're like, okay. I mean, who knows? We see this all year.
Skip also was like, I'm not coming back next year. Peace.
Yeah, exactly. Well, neither is Kenley.
Sure.
He's been around for a while.
And as you guys know, like, a lot of times that we hear things or read things, sometimes it's not the case, right? we can say a personal matter, and it might be something different, or he might say personal matter, and not just Kenley in this situation, but it could be for the team not doing well, and he's on the injured list, and he wants to get home. But I hope for his sake, it was something other than him just wanting to get back home because he's on the injured list. I don't know.
No, it's good. Yeah. Important to talk about. People want to know from you guys because, the rest of the world's not inside the clubhouse. So this is good stuff, Charlie. Congrats again on the retirement. Enjoy the postseason, and good luck on the next steps here. You're going to crush it, all right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Charlie Culberson with us on FT. Oh, it's time to start predictions for the games today and for the entire playoffs. It's bracket time next. All right, so I remember we were talking about whoever loses the bracket challenge has some type of punishment. Do we still want to do that? Because then when we get to it, and hey, YouTube fam, right now we're on for 2 minutes, and then we'll do our locks for today, and we'll lay out our bracket coming up before the games start. Do we want to do anything? Even if it's small, do we want to do anything? Someone covers the dinner, somebody has to wear a uniform, whatever. Don't worry about me. We'll figure something else out for me if I lose. But basically, the way you'd set up the bracket is
you already lost because you're the only one who one of your original teams isn't in the playoffs, so you already lost. So whatever you want to do to Scott,
I don't even understand what you're saying. None of this makes sense. Fake news. But you get a point for the first round getting right, a team in. Then you get 2 points for the next, and so on and so forth. Do you want to do that? You guys interested in that? Okay, yep. But we have to set the ground rules for it.
Set the ground rules, set the punishment, or award, whatever.
Okay, so if you pick the wild card winners, you get a point each, right? DS winners, 2 points each, CS 3, World Series 4? Or do you want to weight it more?
That's fine.
That's fine? I feel like that's probably the way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then winner, loser, just loser. What do we want?
It's got to be the loser. Is
just
it just
the
us
loser.
3?
No. It's everybody in the FT fam that sent in their bracket. So it should be probably 8 to 10 total.
Okay.
Something along.
AJ, are you allowed to shave your beard and only have a mustache, or is that not a legal thing?
Well, no, it has to be something that everyone can do.
Right, exactly.
It has to be something like you got to do something that everyone can do. That doesn't make.
Do you guys like the uniform to run an errand thing or nah? I know you don't necessarily have. We'll find you one. We'll get you some uniform or something, or somebody else. Do you like that? Like you have to go to the store in uniform?
That's fine. I've done that plenty of times before.
Yeah,
spring training.
I feel like that's fun, and I want something that we can show everyone. So I think it would be fun if we go to the hardware store, grocery store is probably fun, and we pick out like a food item for each team or something like that. I don't know, something fun like that. So let's do that.
We'll brainstorm. We got plenty of time today.
Yeah. Right, we can do that. Exactly.
And if you have ideas in the chat, let us know.
Yeah, we're being presented with a point system of 1, 3, 5, 7. But all right, we'll go through that. But at least we'll get the picks in.
Why is everyone in the chat just assuming I'm losing? They're all coming up with all these ideas for me. Like, I'm
going
to lose.
I'm boring, though. I didn't play. I'm boring. I don't even have a uniform. What do you want, my high school basketball uniform?
No, we don't.
BetMGM locks. None of us have any money or
what happened to all my money?
A record. You miss a day, you miss the world.
Seriously,
that's what happened. That's how baseball works.
This is like the biggest BS thing
you
I've
had
ever
a great
seen.
run.
It's Claudia's choice to reset money bags. Why?
I voted for it as well.
Of course you did, because you suck.
No, I don't. I was fine. I won plenty of money this year, but we're starting fresh for the playoffs. So here's how it looks. Wager what you want, and then you dive in. So let's go to Jonathan Papelbon with our first pick of the day. And Parlay Pap, of course, is going with a parlay to start the postseason.
FT fam, what's up? It's your boy, Playoff Parlay Pap. I'm in the lab. I'm doing all this work, all my algorithms, man, all morning long. That's what I woke up and doing because, nobody loves playoffs like I do. So throw it all away. Just throw it all away. Today's simple math. we're going with guys that played a doubleheader yesterday and big, huge clutch inning games, exhausted today. And they got to go to San Diego. The Braves got to go to San Diego and play, and the Mets got to go to Milwaukee and play. And they're going up against the Aces. And I can't see any other way but then putting in the Padres and the Brewers into a parlay. That's the first playoff parlay, pal. Go in the cheese for you. We at plus 165, and we're going to put 400. We're going to go 400 because it's playoffs, baby, and I love to get playoff cheese. Playoff.
Wow, there you go. It's a strong start right there. What's wrong, Kratz? He's fading the two teams that are doing all the traveling and the hustling.
No, the 400. Although Pap is super excited because he made $1 million on Giancarlo not hitting his home runs for the season. Before the season started, he put $1 million down that Giancarlo wasn't going to hit over, I think, 29 and a half homers.
Did he actually put $1 million down?
That's what he said.
You'd have to ask him. He said about it
He
on
was
Twitter.
super confident about it. He was like, no chance. And what did he finish with?
27.
Wow.
I think.
It got close. But good for him. Good for him. All right, good job, Pap. Who else has a parlay? It looks like all you guys do.
He has the same bet.
All right, go ahead, Kratz.
Same. What Pap just said. That's what I'm going with. I'm going parlay Kratz, whatever. But I'm only putting 100 down, plus 165.
Man of the people. What do you got?
All right, so mine's a little different. And I'm going to say this about y'all's bet. In 2005, we played the Angels in the ALCS. They had to do all this cross-country, blah, 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 BS, crappy crap. And they flew back to Chicago. They had to beat the Yankees. There was a rain out. They had to fly to New York. They had to fly back to Anaheim. They flew back to Chicago. They got at 4 a.m, whatever. Everyone's like, oh, the Angels have no chance. The only game we lost that postseason was that game. Okay? So just because you have to travel up, big leaguers, big league travel, you find a way.
Wait, real quick. I've been told game 2 is tougher sometimes because the adrenaline wears off.
You kind of get a little break and you're like, and then your body kind of catches up. But you're still riding adrenaline that first day. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was a little bit weary of that. Just look out, Pap, and parlay Kratz. So I'm going Nerfy in the first game. Fromber, Skubal, Detroit, Houston, Nerfy, no runs in the first inning because I think they're going to come out shoving. And I'm going over 7.5 in Milwaukee and the Mets. Mets bullpen's beat up. Freddie Peralta, I love you, Freddie. Still waiting for you to come back on the show. He laughed when I said it. He's like, anytime you want me. I'm like, okay. And then
he's a busy man.
But he usually gives up a 2 or 3 run homer somewhere along the way. So over 7.5. I guess me to plus 197. It's going to be a good way to be up almost $200 starting tomorrow.
Nice, yeah. Get yourself started.
Since Claudia stole all my money.
Well, we donated it to the FT fund. It's going to be a great dinner at the end of the year or something like that. So I'll go Corbin Burns over 4.5 strikeouts. I felt like that number was light. Don't you feel like that's a light number for him? I think the Orioles are going to try to ride out Burns in terms of innings. I don't think they're going to get cute like many teams do and say, hey, we saw 5 good innings.
That's the key.
I know. But to that extent, I mean, their offense has been tough. I actually have the Royals, and we'll get to it, upsetting the Orioles in this series. But I do think that they'll win low-scoring games. I think there'll be a lot of good pitching here. But we'll see what happens. I just think they're going to ride Burns. And I think the stuff from Burns lately and the fixed cutter overcomes the contact-heavy ball club. I'm not saying he's going to strike out the world, but 4.5 seemed low for me. 135 to win a hundo. Okay. And let's run through the bullpen jackpot. So I don't think I told you guys about this yet, but it just got unveiled. All right. So if you're a BetMGM account holder and you opt into this promotion and you place a straight bet of at least $10 on your choice of any MLB player to hit a home run in that game, you will win a share of a daily $50,000 BetMGM bullpen jackpot in bonus bets if the player you wagered on hits a home run that lands in a MLB team bullpen. So, for example, someone hit one yesterday into a bullpen, right?
Lindor.
Lindor. So if that happens, this gets activated. Prizing will be paid out in bonus bets that expire in 7 days. The offer will be available every Monday through Sunday, and customers will need to place a $10 or more wager on any player to hit a homer. And if that happens and that ends up in the bullpen, that's when you get a share of the $50,000 daily prize. And then you want to do a home run pick? Yeah, we'll do that in 1 sec. We'll come right back on quick to do that if Kratz wants one. Also exclusively available on BetMGM in Michigan only. Detroit Tigers Lucky Tap, the instant win game. You play as a player on the Tigers, swing the bat, hit for some prizes, and if the player misses, you lose your bet. But if the player makes contact, you win rewards depending on which cash targets are hit. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, you represent our home run pick today. Who's hitting one into the bullpen, Kratz?
As a team, let's pick Manny Machado. I mean, we got to all agree to it, and I'll put it on. I'll put the bet on.
Okay.
I mean, Manny. You don't think Manny's going to go to dead center in San Diego tonight? Little afternoon game piece?
I could see it.
It's not going to be Houston. It's not going to be in the Houston-Detroit game because the bullpen is so dang far in Houston. You can't win in the visiting bullpen in Houston.
See, this is good strategy.
See, there's a fence. There's a giant fence there.
Mm-hmm.
And to hit it into Houston bullpen, you got to hit an absolute bomb 450 to right center.
San Diego is a good shot.
San Diego's a good shot because of where it's located.
Milwaukee
definitely is a great shot in right center or left center, either one.
So that's the game you want to look at when you're doing your home run.
You got the left center one that's obviously open. So it's, I think Milwaukee probably has the best shot. So I'm going to say, let's say Lindor. I'm going to say Lindor hits one.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Lindor?
All right, well, good luck to everyone. Yeah. We can have two. Just throw two out there.
That's because he has both ways. If he hits right-handed, he can hit one. If he hits left-handed, he can hit one.
I'll put it in. Lindor. Got it.
Like
FT fam's going to win them bonus bets.
Lock it in. Then we'll swing back with our playoff bracket predictions next. And also the out of the park simulation will play along. And we'll see if we can do that. There's going to be a punishment for if they lose. All right, FT fam, we're about to do our playoff brackets, and then we'll hit some of the other news swinging around the league, like the Ken Kendricks comments, the owner of the Diamondbacks, absolutely slamming Jordan Montgomery. So we'll get to that. Don't worry. I'm looking at questions here real quick to see if there's anything we want to get to. Oh, they're throwing some some punishment out there. Jambi said, Papelbon Loss has to wear a Harper jersey out in public. He would. Easy.
He would do that.
Yeah.
Somebody said if AJ loses, he has to wear a Kratz jersey out in public.
Ooh, I like that.
Nobody wants that embarrassment.
I like that a lot.
That's what I'm saying. To one of your Fox games, you got to wear. If you do a Philly game, you got to wear a Kratz jersey through Philly.
Yeah, but this is going to be after the season's over.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's after the World Series.
People will be like, "Who is Kratz?"
No, they'll be like, "Oh, that's the FT
Philly,
guy."
In Philly, they'll be like, "Who is Kratz?"
Is that the guy on foul territory?
Let
me see if there's anything else real quick. People asking about Morton. It sounds like he's limited. Is that the problem there with Morton?
He pitched Friday too, or Sunday. He pitched Sunday. So
I'm saying, but Monday, Tuesday went.
Thursday, Friday. It'd be Friday. It'd be fine. They're not going to put him on short.
Short rest on Thursday?
No.
So
Lopez is full rest for Thursday.
Lopez is
full rest. He pitched for Saturday, so he'd be full rest.
Did he not appear in Monday's game at all?
No.
He threw an inning. It was his
bullpen day. He did an inning. Right. That's your middle day. Right.
He's got 2 days.
That's the X factor. Ronaldo Lopez is still churning.
If he's good.
Yeah. He was damn good the past week. So we'll see. All right. Playoff brackets. If you want to let us know yours right now, because this is just for the YouTube fam, obviously we're coming back for the TV crowd as well, then drop your predictions because it's now or never. Games are about to start, and then we'll finish with some of the news going on around the league for the last 30, and then we'll all watch the playoffs tonight. All right, be right back. All All right, here we go, FT fam. It is time for our playoff bracket predictions, and that includes help from our friends who put together Out of the Park Baseball 25, and they have nailed some simulations in the past. They ran 1,000 simulations on the postseason bracket. Everything's updated, right? They update as we go, so it's not like the game started from back in March or April and Acuna and Strider and all that are in there. No, these are updated rosters, the whole deal. And so they'll show us each team's winning percentage too, or I'll mention it in the series, kind of like the percentage chance that the team wins the series, or how many times out of 1,000 that the team won. So we'll get their predictions and we'll do ours as well. Are we ready to go? Okay, let's start with Detroit and Houston. Who is winning that series?
Houston.
Easy?
No, I just think the experience. I think Fromber's going to deal. I think their bullpen is better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not as many question marks, right? Lineup-wise, bullpen-wise for the Astros as there are for Detroit.
Okay. Kratz? What's that?
Can't spell Tarek without a T. Tigers? Tigers win tonight.
No, who wins the series?
I don't care who you think's going to win tonight. Who's winning the series?
And that will shut down the rest of it. Tigers win it.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, I'm up 1 on Kratz.
All right. I too will take. Well, we can show it. I too will take Houston. I think they're going to go far again. I think they're being overlooked after a slow start. I mean, Tucker's back. We'll see how Jordan is. I think he'll be fine. And Out of the Park picks Houston as well. I'm giving him a 70% chance. Pap's going Houston. Todd Father's going Houston. So everybody Houston except for Kratz, who's going to look really smart or really not paying attention over the past 10 years to the most dominant team. All right, let's get to the AL wildcard series with Baltimore and Kansas City. We can all just kick this around. Anyone have KC?
You do. I have Baltimore.
You have Baltimore? Kratz? What?
KC.
You have KC? Nice. Okay. Out of the Park picked Baltimore. I've got Kansas City. So there's 2 KCs. Kratz is going anti-chalk right now.
Off the wall.
Yeah. Out of the Park thinks it's close, though. They got 56% for Baltimore.
Burns tonight, they'll figure it out. And I think their offense is going to be better. And there's something to be said for them losing last year and getting swept. And they're playing at home. And Kansas City hasn't hit worth a crap for like the last couple weeks. So.
Okay, that's true. Vinny P's back, which some people are thinking is going to be the answer. Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been several weeks. So let's get to the NL wild card. You've got the Brewers and Mets, the Padres, and the Braves. Anyone see any upsets here? Or do you guys have chalk with Milwaukee and San Diego?
Chalk. I took the Mets.
You took the Mets?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. You think they'll ride the momentum?
I just feel like one of these 2 teams is going to win. I think San Diego is too good.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some holes in Milwaukee. As good as they are, and I love Murph, and I love what they've done, but I just think there's some holes there. And I think that the Mets' pitching is actually lined up pretty well for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know they have Severino. They can get Manaea. They can get Peterson all to throw. And I know they just played them. And the Brewers took 2 out of 3. Yes, stolen bases are going to be a key, though. If they get too many stolen bases, they give up too many stolen bases.
Yeah.
I feel like it could be ugly. But I just think the Mets are going to have Grimace in the stands. There's going to be a lot, Lindor's hitting homers in the bullpens today. I don't know. There's something about the Mets.
All right. Well, the Out of the Park simulation has Milwaukee. Kratz, you have Milwaukee. I have Milwaukee. I mean, I think we got a nice little preview in what was kind of a must-win over the weekend for the Mets. And I know it's a fresh series. We'll see what happens. But I don't think they match up well against them. Like, I think the Mets match up better against even San Diego, as weird as it sounds. And I know they beat them in the season series. A lot of it was earlier in the year. Machado was not 100%. Tatis wasn't playing, whatever. But I thought that would have actually been a better matchup, as crazy as it sounds.
No, I'd say I don't disagree with you, but I like AJ's pick that one of these 2 teams can stay hot through this and then maybe hit a wall, but I still think the Brewers have figured out something that we don't know, and it's just how to win games. That's it. They know how to win games.
Homer pick of all time. Homerist pick of all times. Name one. Pick one. They're all Homer picks. Royals,
Tigers.
check.
Yep.
Brewers, check. But the Astros, you didn't pick them because you tripped on the carpet once, so you didn't want to pick them.
By the way, Todd's got the Mets.
They gave me a lot of money.
Pap has Milwaukee. All right, let's get to the division series. All right, so this is where things get interesting because it depends on who you guys picked. So Who do you have in the division series? You can just say both. We'll each go through both. We'll show the board. As we
Which
go.
one, AL or NL?
AL first.
AL, I picked the Yankees, and I picked the Astros.
Okay. So you've got the Yankees winning their series against Baltimore.
And the Astros beating the Guardians.
Okay. And that is what the out of the park simulation has as well.
Because I think the Astros, again, Cleveland's pitching, yes, their bullpen's great, but their starters are not good. This is a longer series. And I just think the Yankees are better than the Orioles. And I think their rotation is going to be more set. And if the Orioles have to play a tough series like Kratz is saying against the Royals, their pitching and bullpen is going to be beat up. So I just think the Yankees will be lined up with Rodon, Cole, all of them ready to go, and their bullpen will be rested. And I think they'll get through this one.
Mm-hmm. Kratz, what's your take on the division series?
Yankees and Cleveland.
Homer.
Look at mine.
KC, huh?
Wow. He's running
there's always a team
the Will
that
Smith love.
Yeah, the Will Smith mojo. There's always a team that you go, really? The way they were playing the last few years? Do you remember the Diamondbacks at the end of last year?
Yes.
They were like the end of this year. It was like, really?
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, this team's kind of built for a postseason series. That's why, to me,
you're going to go with Kansas City's lineup, though. The difference is Arizona's lineup was better than
Kansas
City. Basically, Kansas City has Bobby Witt.
It was good.
And Salvador Perez, if he swings at balls that he can reach.
And Vinny. Now we're already at 3.
Vinny hasn't played in a month, so that's the question mark.
He'll be fine. He's clutch.
I wouldn't lean on Vinny.
Okay. On the other side, yeah, there's a lot of chalk here. I got Houston. Out of the park, by the way, is Houston over Cleveland.
Again,
AJ.
Another homer pick for Kratz. Cleveland.
Cleveland for
Steven
Pat,
Voigt's my friend.
Todd, and Kratz. They have Cleveland making it to the ALCS. Kratz, you think Cleveland's got enough firepower?
I think Cleveland has enough.
Forget the pitching.
Bullpen.
With the offense. Okay.
I think they have enough. I think they have enough firepower. I think they are the Brewers of the American League. I think their lineup has enough firepower to do what they need to do, and Jose Ramirez is going to be the MVP of the ALDS, not the ALCS, because I have them losing. Sneak peek.
Okay, let's get to the division series. And by the way, I don't know if I fully mentioned this, but everyone had San Diego beating the Braves in this first round. Yeah. That's a tough one to pick against right now.
It's just hard when you have to fly across. I mean, it could
you know what the X factor for me is? Just no Crisell. No Crisell in the series.
Crisell,
that's it. Yeah. That did it for me.
Yeah, that was it. Iglesias pitch, he threw like 60 pitches yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even if they take game 2 with Fried, I'm just like, no Crisell. That did it for me. If they had Sale, I think they could have made some noise.
Okay.
It would have made it more difficult. So division series for everyone. Let's start with the winner of, we know everyone has San Diego against LA, which is going to be an awesome series. I hope you're on that, because that was like a glory series from 2022.
Incredible.
Yeah, dude. Everyone was loving that. You guys were awesome on that call a couple of years ago. So it looks like it's pretty split here. Todd and Pap have LA, Kratz and Out of the Park both going with LA, and AJ and myself going with San Diego. I don't think the Padres are scared of the Dodgers. I think they match up well.
Last time they played the playoff series, San Diego whooped them.
Yeah.
Right? The goose fell on remember the goose landed on the field? Mm-hmm. And we're like, whoever wins this series is going to have a rally goose. And the Padres had, the old guys doing the rap song about the goose and all that stuff. I mean, listen, the Padres, they whooped them in the regular season.
Yep.
And they're not afraid of the Dodgers. They're lined up. I'd love to do this here. No,
it would be awesome.
It would be awesome, but
yeah, Out of the Park has the Dodgers with 62%
heavy.
chance. That's heavy. All right, other side. Depending on you had Mets or Brewers against Phillies. Everyone's going Phillies, and this is where I'm going to get slammed maybe because I had the Phillies before the season started, but I don't care. I mean, I get to fast forward and look, and I need some spice in my life with the playoff picks.
Philly's only 52%.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
From Out of the Park. I just think this is closer than it appears, and I think people have been overlooking Milwaukee all year.
I think
maybe I'm wrong, but
I think Nola, Wheeler, and if Ranger can just figure it out.
But he's not
awful.
He's not right now.
But he's also no one knew who he was in the postseasons where he's made his name the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when the adrenaline kicks in, he figures it out. But I just think the Phillies have too much for either one of these teams.
Okay.
Especially after I think they're going to have a tough division series against the Mets and Brewers are going to kind of beat each other up. And they both are going to have to rely a lot on their bullpen. They're only going to get one day off. And Philly's going to be, we almost had too much rest. We're going to win.
Long layoff. We'll see. Kratz, that was a tough one for you. Phillies and Brewers.
Oh, you didn't know who to pick. Oh.
Tugging at the heartstrings. But you feel good about that Phillies pick?
I win either way. It's like AJ betting against the White Sox. I feel good about the Phillies pick. I do. And I think if Ranger comes back, the last few years when he's done well, they've had a short leash on him anyway. If you look at what he does in 4 to 5 inning outings, it's way different than trying to spread him out through a 6 or 7 inning regular season start. And I think they've done it well. But I also think they have Christopher Sanchez, who has just eliminated the home run ball. He has really, really kept the ball in the park, in a small park in Philly. And I think that will play if Ranger falters.
Yep. All right, let's get to the ALCS. Who's coming out of the ALCS? I'm so boring, but I have a hard time seeing Houston put it all together. I got them going to the World Series.
I picked Houston. I don't know why.
You do too?
And all that keeps playing over and over in my head is what Susan Waldron said. When we asked her, I think it was last year.
Susan Waldman, it was the beginning of this year. Or no, it was the beginning of last year.
Last spring training, we asked her, can the Yankees get to the World Series? You know what she said? Are the Astros still in the league? And that just, every time I'm like, the Yankees are going to do it. And then I hear a Yankees announcer say they can't beat the Astros. And I know they swept them early in the year. That wasn't the same Astros team. I just have a hard time not seeing the Astros in the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Kratz, your former teams.
Yankees. I have the Yankees making it, and I don't think they have to beat Houston. I think the Tigers are going to do the job for them. So that's why I have the Yankees moving on. And nobody gave me any love. I picked the Dodgers. That's not even one of my I could have picked the Padres. I played for the Padres. I could have picked them. So that's my one non-homer pick, by the way.
You did? When did you play for the Padres? For what, 24 hours?
In spring training, 2016.
That doesn't count.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later. See if it really counted or not.
Yeah, I think still Houston's bullpen. I mean, Bray looked like one of the nastiest relievers I've ever seen in the playoffs a couple of years ago. I think he's still got that level stuff. Hader's going to have, another dominant little run here, I think, in my mind. And the offense is good. There's a lot of good players in that lineup for Houston.
Even if Alvarez plays, that's
dude, it's even better than last year. Yonder Diaz instead of Maldonado at catcher. Like, there's some big advantages there. All right.
Anybody other than Jose Abreu at first base is an advantage.
Hell yeah. That was one of the biggest moves they made this year was cutting
Kratz at first was an upgrade this year.
All right, World Series. Right? Are we at World Series or NLCS? NLCS first. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, who's your NLCS winner? Because obviously it depends on
I'm going Kratz, Homer, Phillies. I'm going Homer, Kratz pick.
All of Kratz's teams are in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. All my teams make the playoffs. That's what happens. Phillies going to the World Series. Phillies, Yankees, World Series.
Brewers.
You picked the Brewers to go to the World Series?
Yeah.
Wow, you're crazy.
The Brewers are this year's Diamondbacks.
Thank you.
The Brewers are this year's Diamondbacks. So you guys have Phillies. Todd's got Dodgers. Out of the Park has the Dodgers beaten up on the Phillies. They've got them winning 7 out of 10 times in a series matchup, according to their simulations. Good for them. And it's good for the league. I mean, I'm sure the league would love to see Ohtani in the World Series.
Of course they would.
TV networks.
Fox would love a Dodgers.
Would love that. They hate my pick.
Oh, yeah.
They hate it. My pick is Astros, Brewers, World Series. The Astros are always there, so there's fatigue. And the Brewers are in a teeny tiny market. But whatever. I mean, kind of win-win.
Whatever happens, happens. You get who you get.
Yeah, you get who you get.
Sometimes those bad teams, not bad teams, but lesser-known teams get a lot of people to watch.
Yeah, that's right. Who's winning the World Series?
I'm going Kratz Homer pick. I'm going Phillies. I picked the Braves, Astros at the beginning of the year. Braves obviously are so beat up with losing everybody, but I'm sticking in the NL East. So I'm going Phillies. What is it called? Broad Street. They're going to have a parade down Broad Street. And before we go, I also want to say this, by the way. If you want to make the playoffs next year in your organization, you have FT at your spring training site because we went to Detroit, we went to Houston, we went to Baltimore, we went to the Mets, we went to the Braves, we went to the Yankees, and there's some other team. We went to the Phillies.
Wow.
There's some teams out there that didn't say yes to us coming, and they didn't make it. So if you want to go to the playoffs next year, you have me or one of the FT guys come to your spring training site.
Yeah, there's a big karma thing going on in general, which I don't even know if I can lay out the whole thing. But there's guys who say no who get hurt. I don't know. It gets real weird.
I'm just talking about organizationally.
Yes. And the guys who say yes often go on a nice little run, like Lawrence Butler. All right, Kratz, who do you got?
There's a parade down Broad Street. Philly's going to win it.
Homer.
FT from Broad Street. FT from the parade.
Oh, there you go.
And that was your pick at the start of the year.
It was.
If he could pick the Phillies Brewers to split the World Series, it would be like, is there a way that even though they're both in the National League, Kratz would pick it.
All right, let's show it. Let's get everyone's picks on here. It's kind of boring for me, but I think Houston wins it.
Houston over Milwaukee, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Weird series, but yeah, that's where I'm going. Pap's got Philly, and Todd Father's got the Dodgers taking it. And so does Out of the Park. They've got the Dodgers, and they're feeling pretty good about it. 65% confidence, essentially, with the simulations 1,000 times that they're winning, 65% of the time. It's hard for me to see the pitching lasting. Remember last year we were talking about that, and it took 5 minutes for us to be like, okay, game over, series over. The Diamondbacks just beat the crap out of them early on. So anyway, props to Out of the Park for helping us out with all of that, sending in their picks. If you want to check out the game, anyone that wants to go get Out of the Park Baseball 25, I will post the link in the chat and in the description of this episode as well. And we'll swing right back on FT to pick sides in the Kendrick versus Montgomery drama with the Diamondbacks. All right. How did we feel about all of that? Do you guys have a problem with picking too chalky based on recent history or no? Like last year, who the heck
is the best teams?
But dude, who the heck had the Rangers and the Diamondbacks? Nobody. The answer is nobody. No. Nobody had the Rangers and Diamondbacks in the World Series. Nobody. Some obviously also, whenever you're talking about predictions and people making cases for awards, I thought what Ken said recently was really good. He's like, take out anyone that's a fan of that particular team. I don't care what they have to say because they're biased. But for general baseball fans or fans of other teams, other players, etc., if you saw the Diamondbacks and the Rangers last year, show proof. So that's why for me, I'm like, I got to figure something out that's weird and off the board.
What we have to figure out
what was that for you guys?
What actually matters? AJ says starting pitching matters. The Rangers showed last year they were the best lineup for 3/4 of the season, including the playoffs. I'm thinking bullpen matters, plus a full team effort. Some people think you need somebody to carry your lineup, like a Aaron Judge, a Jose Ramirez, a Shohei Ohtani. Like, you have to choose what you think matters and what actually plays in the playoffs.
Yep. I think last year the Diamondbacks showed us speed, defense. Obviously, the surprise on both sides was how well the bullpens pitched. So a hot bullpen. And
not early. They didn't run.
Hot bullpen matters.
And no bye week. No bye week.
They didn't run. They didn't run early. They didn't run until Game 5 of the Phillies series. But to me, what switched that Phillies series is they had pitchers who had pitchability. They could make the adjustment, and they made the adjustment to beat the Phillies from when, beginning of the series, the Phillies lineup was just beating them up. And they went away from what their own scouting report had, and Brent Strom pushed them to go to a scouting report that was outside the box according to their numbers. So the teams that make the best adjustments.
Brent Strom's brilliant. That worked out well for them. This year, though, the Diamondbacks are sitting at home, and yet we're still going to talk about them in 10 seconds because their owner popped off. He is pissed off about his decision to sign Jordan Montgomery, and we're going to cover that next. All right, let's hit this. So manager, GM, front office, ownership moves. We cover this a lot in the offseason. We got to do it right now because there's some regret. Remember, Jordan Montgomery had a terrible year. Nobody's going to dispute that. He called out Scott Boras, his former agent, for the process and getting signed so late and thought it screwed him up. It's not the first person that's gotten screwed up from that. And then Ken Kendricks, the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, appeared on 98.7 FM with Burns and Gambo. Gambo's the guy who comes on our show sometimes. You know Gambo for Diamondbacks coverage. He's great.
Yeah.
New Yorker, but he's out in Arizona for years. He's awesome. I love Gambo. So anyway, there were a lot of good quotes in here. Or a lot of spicy quotes. So Kendrick said, let me say it the best way I can say it. If anyone wants to blame anyone for Jordan Montgomery being a Diamondback, you're talking to the guy who should be blamed because I brought it to their attention. I pushed for it. They agreed to it. It wasn't in our game plan. When he was signed right at the end of spring training and looking back in hindsight, a horrible decision to have invested that money in a guy that performed as poorly as he did. It was our biggest mistake this season from a talent standpoint, and I'm the perpetrator of that. Say it with your chest.
He said it. Listen, he said it, and he could have said it a better way, but we already talked about this with Ken, and one of the points that Ken was saying was maybe he's trying to get him to opt out.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, not a bad play. Not a bad play.
I don't think Monty's looking for a Christmas card from him this offseason. Let's put it that way.
Nope. No, he's not.
But a paycheck, and it might be another paycheck. Hey, there's a chance that he opts in. Not likely.
But here's the thing. If he opts in, would the Diamondbacks then trade him? Try to trade him?
Yeah, I would imagine trade him because the owner still is in charge of the team. That to me was a statement of he gone no matter what. If I have to eat 3/4 of that deal, he's not coming back into my clubhouse. Now, it's not like he's a bad guy or anything. I like Monty. Yeah, but Ken Kendrick has already staked his claim on the mistake and does not want to be any part of it going forward. And clearly he thinks, maybe it had to do with the Diamondbacks falling just short this year.
Is this the same Ken Kendrick that fired his announcers once for wearing the wrong polos?
I think there's more to that story, but yes, there was a thing. To me, it's more recently. We're not threatening the city to leave, but if they don't give us a ton of money for ballpark renovations, we gone.
It's his right to say whatever he wants. He owns a dang team. He can do whatever he wants.
I like it. Hey, say it with your chest.
Now, does it suck for Monty? Yes.
Yeah.
Because it kind of put him in a bad spot. Because what can Monty say back to this? Yeah, I stunk. He's right.
Yeah, you should say, yeah, I stunk. He's right. And I'm gone. And I can't wait to sign with the Padres this offseason and shove against them all year long.
You love that.
That would be such a juicy response. I hope Monty's like that. So here's what I think happens, okay? Monty opts out. Monty signs with an NL West ball club, most likely either the Dodgers, the Padres, or the Giants. Any of those are in play.
Mm-hmm. He wants to be on the East, though.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But just play along. So he signs with one of those teams, and then he gets to face the Diamondbacks all season long, and he shuts them out every time.
Good for him. Best way to show somebody is to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk about it. Be about it.
I'm with you. All right, you want to do Chaim Bloom real quick? We covered it in a little breaking news video yesterday with Katie Wu. I encourage you to check that out if you're a Cardinals fan. But you see Chaim Bloom's taken over. The one thing that I caught afterward were people being like, well, why doesn't he just start the takeover now? I'm like, well, I think it's kind of happening. It's almost like nice
like this
way
was
to honor
when they hired him.
Yeah. But Mo still gets the year to transition with Chaim. Listen, Chaim Bloom's going to be making plenty of decisions this year along with John Mozeliak. I know he's going to focus on the minor leagues and all of that, but any massive moves will have heavy influence from him as well. If they're trading away some stars, right? He is going to be heavily involved. Anyone they sign, I know they're not going to sign much. That's what the owner said. They're going to take a step back, and they're rebuilding for a couple of years. That's what it sounds like. Yes, Kratz?
Oh, I was just going to say, how about the fact that maybe the Cardinals are doing Chaim a solid here because he came into Boston. Do you remember what the first thing he was told to do when he came into Boston? Sign Mookie Betts to a super low contract or trade him. Those are the options. And he obviously couldn't sign a guy to a $185 million contract that was worth over $300 million. So he had to trade Mookie Betts. This way, Mozeliak Mo is the one who has to maybe do some of the dirty work. So maybe they're doing him a solid. And he's like, look, I don't want to come in and all of a sudden be the villain right away. Like, let's kind of transition this too.
It's going to be tough times for them. If they're not spending, they're going to trade some guys away. There's not a ton yet. I mean, there's some notable players. We spoke to Quinn Matthews on Baseball America Hot Sheet the other day. He was great, and he's one of the better pitching prospects.
So here's the question I have, and it's what we just said about what was the lady's name we had last week about Oakland? When did Oakland become a small market? When John Fisher bought the team? When did the Cardinals become a small market? They are not a small market team, and listen, I loved my time with the Cardinals, and they're a great organization. I love Mozeliak, and Mr. DeWitt was great to me. But why do they have to cut the payroll? They don't have to cut the payroll. They're making a killing in Ballpark Village. And if they put a good team out there, we know the Cardinals fans will come to the games. All they're asking for is like a competitive team that's in the race. Most of the time the Cardinals fans are, we won 85 games and we were in it to the last week. Yeah, we're going to get them next year. But this year, the fans, for the first time that I can remember, were like, yeah, we ain't coming.
Wins or portfolio. Everyone has their separation point. They're a portfolio team now.
They never were.
But now they're a portfolio team.
I know. They never were.
That's the decision.
Twins, too. Twins are right there with them.
You want to talk about a team that put the flag
Jim
down.
Pohlad came out and pretty much said it.
He kept saying the word business so many times. If you were playing that drinking game, then you're probably not even awake right now.
You're talking about Jim Pohlad?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. He's like, this is a business. We're running like a business.
Business,
Yeah.
revenue.
That's AJ, Lord Business.
I did dress as that for Halloween one year. You know that? I nailed it. My whole family dressed up as the Lego movie.
All right. A quick break and then back to business. Arte Moreno didn't speak, but the team doesn't even know what they're doing this off. So we'll swing right back on FT.
It was one of those ones in the Crawford boxes.
All right, so what's up, FT fam? We're watching right now. This is actually a good time to remind everyone that we will be with you for select post-game shows. Nothing planned for the next couple of days at least. We'll see what happens with the Game 3s on Thursday. But we did one yesterday after the Mets and Braves series concluded, the little two-gamer to wrap up the season, which was pretty cool. So stay tuned on all of that, and then we'll let everyone know as best as possible when we're going to pop up with post-game shows. A lot of it has to do with the schedule. We're not going to just pop up post-game shows while there's other games going on live. So I know a lot of you have been requesting more of those. We're going to do the best we can. We'll have plenty going on with the World Series, some LCS, some DS, and maybe one for this wild card round. So yeah, the postseason has officially begun. The Tigers and the Astros are facing off right now, and here's Jordan Alvarez, by the way, who just has to DH.
Just one out away from a Nerfy. Just one out away.
Oh, right. Wow, it's a quick inning.
One out away.
It's a good pitching matchup here to start. But also for the Astros, the reason I had a hard time picking against them, man, Hunter Brown has been on a heater for a long time now.
He's good now.
Yeah, it was really bad for a month and a half.
And he became Hunter Brown. There it is, Nerfy, baby.
Got it.
Have to parlay down, Kratz. Have to parlay down.
Good for you.
That Nerfy was minus 200.
But when you parlay it with over 7.5, it gets you to plus 200.
Yep.
You know what else I love? Storylines. So, and it always revolves around trades. I love the trade deadline. And then last year, for example, I always bring this up. Montgomery ends up going to the Diamondbacks. The Rangers instead of the Diamondbacks. Rangers win the World Series over the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks were in play for him, really wanted him. They spoke about it. That's cool. Kikuchi, I felt like was a huge name. Teams wanted him. People were like, what are the Astros doing? They overpaid. Let's see, because he's been pretty damn good.
I mean, the only game he lost, he pitched was the last game of the year.
Which is like a whatever.
And nobody cared.
Yeah. I mean, can you get a better return? He won every game for you.
It was 9-0, and then the last game they lost. And I think they got one hit in the game as a team because they celebrated hard the division the night before.
Yeah, hangover games don't count. So, be right back. All right, so let's hit hot corner. And by the way, I just wanted to cap off our Jordan Montgomery conversation by saying he was a huge part of the team that won a World Series last year. So to act like, oh, what a mistake. Like dude, he was a coveted free
But here's
agent.
the problem, and Snell kind of made the adjustment after he went on the IL. They didn't get the spring training. And they both said, Montgomery fired Boris because of it, right? So, yeah, Montgomery's going to have a full offseason to prepare the way he wants to prepare, knows when he's going to sign, and he can go from there.
Yep. All right, so next topic, and the only one we'll hit here in hot corner, and then we'll step aside and go to slap hands too. But Perry Manassian spoke, GM of the Angels, and Sam Blum, who really does some incredible work out there covering this team, because it is not easy to cover this team. They're really never good. It's been a long time. There is plenty to cover, but it's difficult to cover this team. Let's just put it that way. So Arte Moreno declined to speak to media, the owner of the team, because you are getting notes or media availability from some of the owners, right, coming out there. Polad did, and I mean, Jerry Reinsdorf sent a letter out there. John Fisher sent a heartfelt letter. Nothing from Arte. But here's the problem. Blum said, yes, the big takeaway was that he hasn't talked with Arte Moreno yet about what his offseason budget will be or if he'll be able to significantly up payroll. He talked about how they did a lot of building this year. Lots more to come in article format from Sam Blum. So you head into the offseason with a team that keeps kind of getting themselves to mid to lower tier, low market revenue range or payroll range. And as of right now, you don't even know what you're allowed to do in the offseason. And you've been out of it for a while. So
I mean, they set the franchise record for losses this year.
Yeah. But you don't even know what you're allowed to work with in the offseason. That's pretty tough.
I don't know if that's tough. I mean, you'd think
How do
they
you do
would
the
have already
job?
had these discussions because the season's been over for them for a while.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
I don't know. There's just a lot. There's a lot going on out there. Perry got an extension, so he knows that. But how do you get an extension and not have any kind of payroll discussion during that time? Like, hey, thanks for the re-up. I'm excited about our 3-year plan. How much am I going to be spending? No, we're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, thanks for the 3 years. I'll text you later.
I mean, who cares? He got 3 years.
Right.
He got a 3-year deal. He's like, I don't care how much. Good or bad, I got 3 years. Hey, fire me.
I would care if I'm a GM. I want to win. I would care.
I know. Right. You got one life. You want to live. You want to win. I mean, they're not invested in the minor leagues like some other teams are. That's been very well documented, right? And their minor leagues are serving in the major leagues as the development process there, which is fine. That's the choice they make. But here's why. To me, here's what's happening, okay? They know what the deal is. It's not good news. You don't share it right now because fans are coming off the worst season they've ever seen from the team. Do they really want to hear more? It's like the White Sox coming off the worst season ever, and they go, by the way, not going to spend money for veterans to be able to trade them away to help improve the process here a little bit quicker. Not going to really do that.
They did come out and say that.
I'm saying, so do you want to just keep punching people in the face when they're already on the floor? You know?
Or maybe Perry had a 4-year. Maybe Perry had a 4-year deal on the table, and he goes, yeah, I like that 4-year deal, but what's the payroll going to look like? And Artie goes, it's a 3-year deal now. He's like, okay. No problem. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Ask again, and it's 2 years. All right. Quick break, then we'll wrap up thoughts. We'll do some slap hands, and we'll get you ready for the next show coming up on FT. And a reminder, we're live every single day, all year long, 1 to 3 Eastern on weekdays, leading up to these playoff games. And even if they start a little bit overlapping with what we're doing. I'll bring up a question, one of the more recent ones in the chat. Wayne said, why are you guys so high on Milwaukee? They can't win in the playoffs. I think it's mostly directed at me. Maybe a little bit of Kratz, but I mean, yeah, what is that? Would you like to read how far they made it in 18?
What did Wayne say? What did Wayne say?
They can't win in the playoffs. I think he's confusing the Brewers and maybe the Twins up until the little wild card round last
the Brewers
year.
haven't made it past in a while.
Yeah, they've won some games in the playoffs.
Been a while.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't look at that team and be like, they can't win in the playoffs.
I don't think you can look at you can make a case for all 12 teams to win.
Right.
There's a way. There's a path for every team in the postseason this year to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't happen a lot. Now, there's years where you look at it and you're like, this team has no shot.
I tried to make that case, and I was like, I feel like this sounds boring. I was on Jim Bowden's show on Sunday, and I feel like this sounds boring, but I was like, let's try and talk through which team can you really feel confident about just not getting far in the playoffs. You know, we were all having trouble coming up with teams that we felt really comfortable about with saying that. Besides, I mean, I mentioned Arizona. I said, you know, as much as I liked them for most of the year, I was like, I don't see it right now. They didn't even make the playoffs, so it doesn't matter. And this was right before the last game.
Two things. I know we're in a break, but two things. One, we haven't even talked about this.
What?
Hinch versus the Astros.
Oh, it's
storyline.
awesome. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday with Chandler Rome.
And then second of all, how big was it the Twins lost all those games and the Tigers didn't have to pitch Scooble on Sunday?
Huge.
Right? Like the Twins did them all kinds of favors, but also the fact that the Tigers clinched before Sunday was another huge favor.
They clinched on Friday. Imagine the Tigers mid-August looking at where they're at, and then they clinch on Friday before the season ends. There's a couple other shows in baseball that I listened to, and I was listening back on over the weekend while I was doing some stuff and had some traveling to do. And there were some shows that were like a week and change old, and they were like, oh, should the Tigers, you know, let Scooble just ride out into the sunset? Do they need to pitch him in his last start? They were saying that because they were like, well, because their season's done.
Could be on the line.
They were like, no. They were saying this was like a week and a half before the season ended. So the Tigers were still pretty on the outside looking in. And they were like, do you just let Scooble kind of finish on a high note and watch the innings because he's had injuries and just skip his last start of the season? Meanwhile, it's like, no, actually he's skipping the last start of the season because they're already in the damn playoffs. So, all right, here we go. All right, FT fam, you're a real one. If you stuck around for the finish line here while the postseason begins. Kratz hats, what do you got?
I mean, if you have a postseason hat, isn't this the time to wear it?
Yes.
Brewers, Wheat Leaf, little postseason 2018. Thank you, AJ, for calling that series for us, the NLDS.
Did you call that series?
It was over real quick.
You called that series? Oh, that's cool.
It was over real quick. They played the Rockies. Yeah, third game was MLB. I've told this story. I was on a flight. I was like, do I have to go? Because the Brewers were beating them like 4-0 in like the seventh inning, and our producer was like 1-0 Detroit, by the way. And the Kratz, I have a question for you. But I have a question for you on this game after I tell the story. And I was on the plane in Orlando and I had to stop in Houston to go to Colorado. And I text our producers like, do I really have to get on this plane? Because, you know, Brewers are going to win. He's like, well, they're still in slam range. Close the door for the airplane to fly. Somebody hit a grand slam. I don't know.
Keon Broxton hit a homer to put it out of range.
Out of slam range.
Yeah.
Right when they closed the door. And I'm like, I can't get off the plane now, dang it. So I had to fly to Houston, got off, flew back home.
Wow.
Yeah. Because by the time I landed in Houston, the game was over.
It was done. Wow.
But yeah,
so
Kratz, I got a question for you. Fromber just gave up a run, right? He walked Spencer Torkelson, and one thing I hate this. 3-2, he threw a heater in. I feel like that is the worst pitch you can throw because it has to be perfect. Because you miss out over the plate, it's a homer. And if you throw it in, most guys don't swing in and play pitches like that. So it has to be like, yes, I know he was trying to do the front hip sinker thing, but it's got to be so perfect. And Fromber's not really a control guy. He's more of I'm going to outstuff you with my sinker and curveball guy.
2-0. But my thing is, why do that? Why do, like, especially with Torkelson, like, it's not, but the game has gone away from down and away, AJ. Like, no longer are you like, I wonder where I'm going 3-2 with a sinker ball pitcher. I'm going down and away. Throw the pitch, let him hit it on the ground, go pick the ground ball up. We'll see you later. Trying to get that indoor freeze. Now it's 2-0. Tigres.
Yeah, 3-0 swing by Jake Rogers too.
Yeah, that's where the wild card series. That's where it gets crazy.
That's why I picked the Tigers.
Just right.
Lot of games to play.
A lot of baseball left. All right, last thing I want to shout out is the FT Network's all over coverage of the playoffs. And they also like to have fun with some big name guests. So if you're a fan of Charles Barkley and his media personality antics, the Philly show talked to him. Obviously, he's a big deal in the Philly area. So Ruben, Todd, and Jim spoke to Chuck, and you can get that interview.
He was on my flight the other day.
Chuck?
Mm-hmm.
You say hi?
No. But he was there. Enough people were bothering him. I didn't want to be another person to bother.
Fair. I've experienced that before.
There was people. He got so mad. It was great. He was so
mad. Got mad?
He landed, and we were going to Milwaukee. I'm like, why was he going to Milwaukee? He lands. We get off the plane, and there's like 10 dudes with basketballs. And he's like, man, how the bleep did y'all know I was coming here? Nobody was supposed to know I was coming here. And he's like, I ain't signing nothing for y'all.
Did he really say, I'm not signing nothing?
Yeah, and walked down the escalator.
Good for him.
Yeah, he's like, no, listen, I got no problem with it, but it was just funny that like he's like, man, how'd y'all know I was here?
Yeah, it's always like always the dudes too, like the 45-year-old dudes. It's like, yo, if a dad comes up with his kid, take a picture. These guys are looking for a quick signature, and they're selling it online 5 seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, they're catching them at the exit too.
What?
They're catching them at the exit too, getting another autograph. They're not just getting one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Chuck's on the Philly show. You got Mets, you got Yanks with Pinstripe, Hammer Territory, the whole deal. So if you want to check out those shows, type it in wherever you get your pods. You can look up those YouTube channel accounts as well. And yeah, Detroit's off to a little hot start. We'll talk all about it on tomorrow's FT. Happy playoffs, everyone.